The moment he dropped to one knee, time didn't stop. It fractured, because I knew exactly why he was there, kneeling, sweating, pretending to be in love with me under a chandelier that reflected his lies like tiny shards of glass. "Marry me, Laurel," he said, voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. "You're my forever." If only he knew how good I'd gotten at playing his game. The room erupted into applause. His friends clapped, his mother gasped, and somewhere in the back of the restaurant, a violinist started playing "Can't Help Falling in Love." Perfect. Fake, but perfect. I smiled, that polished, camera-ready kind of smile I'd learned from years of being his arm candy at corporate events. Then I said, yes. Everyone cheered. He slid the ring onto my finger, the diamond catching the light like a tiny, cruel spotlight. But deep down, I already knew. He thought he'd just silenced me. He had no idea he'd just written his own ending. Before all of that, there was love, or something that felt like it. His name was Asher Vale, and when I first met him, he had this kind of quiet magnetism that made everyone in a room turn toward him without realizing why. He wasn't the loudest or the funniest, but his confidence was the kind that made you want to lean in. He worked in real estate, the kind of guy who wore sleek suits, but still rolled up his sleeves at happy hour like he wanted people to think he was down to earth. I fell for it. Hard. I was 26, ambitious, working as a brand designer at a boutique agency in Chicago. I'd grown up thinking love was something stable, predictable, the kind that grew from shared morning coffees and inside jokes. Asher made me feel like love could be cinematic, big, dramatic, worth writing about. At first, it was intoxicating. Late-night drives along Lakeshore, rooftop dinners, handwritten notes tucked into my purse. He'd text me at 3 a.m. saying, "I can't sleep. I keep thinking about your laugh." It was too much, too soon. But I ignored the voice in my head that whispered, real love doesn't need to prove itself this hard. Because when you're lonely and someone looks at you like you're the only person in the world, you'll believe almost anything. The first lie came small. A canceled date. Work emergency, he said. Then another. My client's wife is in town, can't make dinner. Then one day, I saw it. A text on his phone from a woman named Eve Calloway. "Last night was amazing. I still smell like you." I remember standing there, phone in my shaking hands, reading that line over and over until it stopped making sense. When I confronted him, he didn't even flinch. "Laurel, you're overreacting," he said, leaning back in that casual way men do when they know they hold the upper hand. "She's just a client. You're twisting things." "A client who smells like you, Asher?" But I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just stared at him, memorizing the way he looked when he lied, the way his eyes didn't dart away, how his tone softened, how his mouth twitched right before he deflected blame. Because I knew, one day, I'd need to recall every detail. When I told my best friend Nina, she wanted to torch his car. "Girl, I'll do it. Just hand me the lighter," she said, pacing my apartment in fuzzy socks and rage. I laughed, sort of, but I couldn't let him know I was done yet. Because Asher wasn't the kind of man you left quietly. He was the kind that tried to spin the story, paint himself as the victim, gaslight his way into sympathy. I'd seen him do it before. With exes, with coworkers, with anyone who stood in the way of his golden boy image. No, if I was going to end it, I had to end it smart. And then fate handed me the perfect opportunity. 3 weeks later, I found out about Eve again. This time, she didn't text. She called. I was at his condo, waiting for him to get home, when his phone lit up on the counter. Eve, work. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought her back. I answered. "Hey, babe," a silky voice purred through the line. "You left your cufflinks and your toothbrush. My bathroom looks like we're married already." My chest went ice cold. "Oh, really?" I said, forcing my tone light. "And how long have you been playing house?" There was a pause. "Who's this?" Laurel, his actual girlfriend. A sharp inhale, then click. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message from Asher. "We need to talk." "I bet we do." He showed up at my apartment looking panicked. Not guilty, just cornered. "Laurel, you have to believe me. Eve's mussing. She's a mistake. You said she was a client. She was. It just got messy. I didn't mean for it to happen." I folded my arms. "So you were lying?" His jaw clenched. "I'm sorry, okay? I'll make it right. I love you, and I'll prove it. Whatever you want, I'll do it." I smiled faintly. "Anything?" He nodded fast. "Anything." "Good," I said. "Then marry me." He froze. "What?" "Propose." "If you mean what you say, prove it." And that was the moment I saw fear flicker in his eyes. But pride won out. He wasn't about to let me call his bluff. So 3 weeks later, he dropped to one knee under that chandelier, surrounded by people, and asked me to be his wife. And I said yes. The next month was a blur of white dresses, champagne tastings, and fake smiles. He played the doting fiancé. I played the devoted bride-to-be. But under the surface, I was setting the stage for something entirely different. See, revenge isn't rage, it's choreography. It's knowing exactly when to step, when to pause, when to let your opponent think they're winning. I started by befriending his mother, Diane Vale, the one person he feared disappointing. She adored me, thought I grounded him, thought I'd finally tamed her wild son. Every week, I'd visit her, bringing flowers and updates about wedding plans. And slowly, I dropped hints, subtle ones, like how stressed Asher seemed lately, or how he'd been distracted on calls, how I hoped he was ready for marriage. By the time the wedding rolled around, Diane was practically glowing with pride. I, on the other hand, was counting down the hours to detonation. The morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. The venue, a glass chapel overlooking Lake Michigan, was already buzzing with vendors and staff. Everything looked picture perfect: pale blue hydrangeas, ivory ribbons, polished silverware. I sat in front of the mirror, makeup half done, and stared at my reflection. This was it, the moment I'd make him feel what it's like to lose control. Nina walked in, holding a mimosa. "You sure about this?" I grinned. "Oh, I've never been surer." She raised a brow. "Then, let's make history, babe." The ceremony began at noon. Guests filed in, music swelled, cameras clicked. Asher stood at the altar, handsome as ever, slick hair, white tux, charm radiating off him like a fog. He thought he'd won. He thought I'd forgiven him, that he'd spun his way back into my good graces. He had no idea what was coming. When the wedding march started, I walked down the aisle slowly, deliberately, my veil fluttering behind me. He smiled that smug smile I used to love, the one that now made my skin crawl. Halfway down, I stopped. Everyone went silent. I looked at him, then at the guests. My voice was calm, steady. "I want to thank everyone for being here today, especially those who believed in our love story." A few nervous chuckles. Cameras flashed. Then I reached into my bouquet and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Asher," I said, "I wrote you a note." He frowned, confused. "I'll let you read it when I'm gone." Before anyone could react, I turned, handed my bouquet to Nina, and walked straight out the chapel doors, leaving him standing there, frozen. Inside the bouquet, tucked between the roses, was my note. This time, I cheated first. "Your mother deserves a better son." The story hit social media within the hour. Someone had filmed my exit, the crowd's stunned faces, Asher's expression, pure disbelief morphing into panic. It went viral. "Runaway bride exposes cheating fiancé" trended for 2 days straight. Reporters camped outside his condo. His firm dropped him. His clients vanished. And Diane? She called me that night. "Sweetheart," she said quietly, "I don't know everything that happened, but I'm proud of you for walking away." That was the only closure I needed. 3 months later, I was living in New York, working remotely, thriving. Sometimes I'd see Asher's name pop up in gossip threads. A man once polished, now unraveling in public. I never reached out. Didn't need to. Because revenge, when done right, doesn't need an encore. It just needs silence and a good exit. And maybe that's the lesson. Love isn't about grand gestures or diamond rings. It's about respect. And the moment it's gone, so is the future you thought you were building. He proposed to keep me quiet. I said yes to make sure the world heard every word he didn't want spoken. And when I left him at that altar, I didn't just break his heart, I broke his illusion. Because in the end, the only vow worth keeping is the one you make to yourself. You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.